Right now, Dane County is under a public health alert due to an increase in opioid overdoses. More on a new tracking system aimed at stopping the spread.
These homes, by and large, are unsupervised, unregulated, no restrictions.
And a Rock County family is grieving the loss of their son who overdosed at a sober living home in Florida. Their message to those who have loved ones in recovery.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 6.
6 members of our community in Dane County have been taken to hospital emergency rooms in the last 9 days because of opioid overdoses.
Well, that's according to an alert from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, the first of its kind. Madeline O'Neill tells us about a new monitoring system that health officials are hopeful can make a difference. Maddie?
Eric and Susan, the numbers come from the CDC, and as of now, any more than 5 suspected non-fatal overdoses seen in Dane County emergency rooms are considered more than what we'd usually expect in a week and will trigger an alert like this. That number may change as more data is gathered. Public Health Madison and Dane County put out the DHS alert today, saying it could be a sign of an especially potent batch of heroin or one laced with fentanyl in the area. Public Health Supervisor Julia Olson says by tracking overdoses weekly rather than monthly or yearly, it can help them respond more quickly.
We wanted to be very proactive in getting this information out to our public safety colleagues, to community, to families and individuals who, have a substance use disorder, so that people can, again, be equipped with Narcan. They can be able to save someone's life or recognize the symptoms of an overdose if they need to.
Those symptoms include pale, sweaty, or clammy skin, blue lips or fingertips, and irregular breathing. Now, we reported earlier this month that Madison police have been seeing a downward trend in overdoses in the city, and they say that has been continuing. But this recent alert is based on Dane County data. Public Health says they're working to bring all sets of data together to get a better idea of the big picture.
It is a constant battle. Maddie O'Neill reporting. Maddie, thank you. A Rock County family is grieving the loss of their 23-year-old son tonight.
And now they say they have a warning for anyone else looking at options for drug recovery. Rock County reporter Adam Duxter joins us from our bureau at the Janesville Gazette with why a South Florida treatment home is at the center of this discussion. Adam?
Well, Eric and Susan, this story involves 2 young men from Rock County struggling with opioid addiction in their early 20s. And while they never had a chance to meet, their stories are similar. And now both families are trying to get the truth out there about what they call the Florida Shuffle.
Picture, Adam. I think
Seth Strickland's mom and dad never got rid of his childhood drawings.
Things I've done this year.
Or the letters he wrote in elementary school. The Janesville family says these show what made him special.
so Seth was a very bright young man, very caring, charismatic.
But when Strickland was a teenager, his parents, Mark and Joyce, noticed a change.
We started noticing him being more distant, him being more irritable.
And after a hospitalization, found out he had several drugs in his system, including heroin. What followed was a 7-year rehabilitation journey to 4 different states. Seth made progress, but like a black cloud, addiction followed him back home.
He ended up reacquainting with some old friends, using again, and here we go again.
Desperate for a solution, his parents sent him to a sober living home in South Florida this past October.
They assured us that this was the place for him. This is where he would find his sobriety.
It was the last time they would see him alive. Days ago, Seth died of a heroin overdose. He was 23.
We sent him as a whole person with promise, hope, a future, and a whole life ahead of him. And what we got back was a box with no explanations behind it.
Seth's story made its way to Brooke McKern, who had also sent her son Nick to South Florida in hopes of him getting clean. Before last December, he overdosed at his room in the facility. That's when McKern started looking more closely into the home itself.
There's no supervision there of any kind. There was no counselors, no medical staff.
South Florida has dozens of homes like the ones Seth and Nick stayed in, all marketing themselves as a way to get clean in the Florida sun. But these facilities are starting to get exposed for their lack of staff or rules, Earning the nickname the Florida Shuffle, it's described as a way for these properties to make money off addicts they bring in. Well, the addicts routinely use places like this to relapse or overdose.
The Florida Shuffle is a bottomless moneymaker between the facilities, between the lab companies, between the doctors.
Seth's parents say since their son's death, they've been kept in the dark.
We weren't offered any closure. We weren't offered any condolences, nothing.
Tonight, issuing a warning to all parents.
South Florida is not the answer for your addict, for your loved one. It's not the answer.
McKern says 5 months after her son Nick overdosed at that Florida home, another person overdosed in the same home. And since then, she's actually taken a trip to Florida to search for the answers she says she still hasn't gotten. But tonight, she says, if you are looking for a place for your loved one with an addiction to go, to look for a place that's joint credited. She also says that if you do have a loved one that is struggling with an opioid addiction, to reach out to the community around you for help.
Yeah, wow, a disturbing story. Our thanks to those families for sharing with us.
Very
Adam
brave
Duxter
of them.
In Janesville. Adam, thank you.
Thank you, Adam. To weather now. It was a beautiful day today, and the heat is returning to the forecast. Let's check in with meteorologist Dave Caulfield. Dave?
Well, Susan, temperatures will be closer to the upper 80s by this weekend, and it could feel like the mid-90s once again for some portions of southern Wisconsin. High-resolution Doppler showing much of the shower and thunderstorm activity across southwestern Wisconsin has gone to bed for the evening, although there still are a few showers showing up closer to Camp Douglas. We'll keep an eye on that, but most of us will stay dry this evening and during the overnight hours. Platteville on our Queen Bee Radio Skycam looking at partly to mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures are generally in the upper 70s and low 80s, the exception Mineral Point, where that rain-cooled air has been around for the last few hours, and dew points are pretty comfortable for most of us. Southwest Wisconsin's starting to feel that humidity a little bit more. Day planner for tonight into tomorrow. Temperatures will fall into the lower 60s under mostly clear skies overnight. We'll be back in the mid 80s with partly sunny skies tomorrow, and then we'll talk about a little bit more heat and humidity on the way for this weekend in your First Alert forecast.
All right, Dave, thank you. A live look right now at a public meeting on potential improvements to the Beltline. The Department of Transportation is considering opening up the shoulder to drivers during the rush hour. That would essentially add an extra lane of traffic between Whitney Way to the interstate. Our Jamie Perez is attending the meeting. She'll have updates from tonight's discussion on News 3 Now at 10. American Transmission Company says the 700 block of East Main Street will be closed for up to 2 months while crews continue cleaning up from the electric substation fire last week. According to the city's traffic engineering department, they need that area clear so there's enough space for equipment and equipment that is needed to handle hazardous waste removal. South Livingston Street and South Blount Street will remain open.
Wisconsin Democrats are calling to restore voting rights to people re-entering their communities from prison. The Unlock the Vote bill could add 68,000 new voters to the rolls. The group Ex-Incarcerated People Organizing has been working with lawmakers on this bill. Director Jerome Dillard says people who get out of prison can be ostracized from the ballot box for 10 to 15 years while they wait to get off probation.
I have that lived experience of working in a community for 5 years while on paper. During that period, I was able to purchase a home. I had a good paying job, but had no say in who represented the community that I moved in or the services that were received in that community.
And there are a number of presentations planned around the state to educate the public on this legislation and reach out to formerly incarcerated people about their voting rights. The first meeting is tomorrow night, 6 to 8 at Fountain of Life Family Worship on West Badger Road.
A Wisconsin bus company is letting job seekers feel what it's like to drive a big yellow school bus. Lamers Bus Lines had an open house event today, complete with test drives at its Wanakee location. To be considered, you'll need a good driving record, at least 4 years of experience driving any vehicle, and you have to be at least 21 years old. If you're interested, you can stop by the Wanakee location on Ramish Road on Saturday between 11 and 3.
More local news now. As soon as November, Madison restaurants and bars could only be allowed to give out plastic straws if a customer asks for one. Alder Saeed Abbas will present plans for that new city ordinance August 6th. It's an effort to cut back on plastic that ends up in our rivers and oceans. Under the proposed rule, restaurants could still give out straws to takeout and drive-through customers and offer paper or reusable metal straws to dine-in customers. Madison Streets Division has a new pilot program to transform food scraps into electricity.
Currently, all the food scraps is collected by the Streets Division goes to the Dane County landfill. They have about 8 to 10 years of life left in that thing. So anything we can do to divert material going into that landfill, the better, because once you fill the landfill, the only thing you can do is build another one.
So, how does it work? Well, the scraps will be taken to an anaerobic biodigester in Middleton, and the methane released during the decomposition process will be converted to electricity. 165 households on the city's west side have signed up to donate scraps to the program. The trial will last 8 weeks, with the first collection happening August 2nd.
Coming up next at 6, what wardens are watching for on area lakes.
And what you need to have with you in a boat to avoid a ticket.
We know this forecast has a lot of you heading out on the water. It turns out the natural current isn't the only thing DNR wardens are worried about. I'm Danica Lewis. I'll take you out on the water to explain.
Welcome back. The Garver Feed Mill. Well, they opened up again. You're a little lost there. Ian's Pizza, the first retail business to open at the newly renovated Garver Feed Mill. That was today.
But the restaurant actually ran into some issues today. Ian's posted on Facebook it had to close after a hectic lunch rush when they ran out of dough. Owner Nick Martin told the State Journal the dough takes 2 days to make, and the next batch is delayed because the prep oven broke last night. Managers wrote on Facebook they were humbled by the welcome they received from the East Side community, and they're meeting to regroup and improve the customer experience.
There is a new Mexican restaurant coming to Greenway Station. Ancho and Agave will be open next to Biaggi's at Greenway Station this fall. It features house-made salsa and guacamole, hand-pressed juices, plus classic Mexican cuisine. Also new to Greenway Station, Madison 2nd, Sola Salon Studios, a Verizon store, a Rescue Me consignment, and thrift boutique. That store has a special section devoted to products for dogs. Part of the proceeds will benefit Wisconsin dog rescue organizations. If you're thinking about taking the family out on a boat this week, a reminder that not having enough life jackets can mean a couple $100 fine.
Danica Lewis went out on the water with a DNR warden to see what else he's looking for to keep everyone safe. That's new at 6.
With this beautiful stretch of weather the News 3 Now weather team has in the forecast, it's really no wonder a lot of us are trying to find ways to get out on the water. But there's a new effort making sure we all realize what our need for speed might mean for others.
Even on those paddle boards, everybody's gotta have them.
Warden Jake Denar's office changes with the seasons, and in the summer,
All the other kids out there,
that office changes every day.
they have their wearables.
His job is to make sure people can continue their good time safely. That means having life jackets and fire extinguishers on board, staying sober, and obeying the unspoken speed limit. In collaboration with the Minnesota DNR, Wisconsin wardens are asking everyone to own your wake. Especially with the high water levels this summer, wakes can cause property damage or capsize other watercraft.
It'd be a little flat bottom or a canoe or kayak or anything like that, and if they have a huge wake that hits them, it could swamp them, and then they're in a world of hurt and danger out in the middle.
While we've seen multiple drownings on rivers,
Lakes, I think people are a little more like complacent with them. You know, they're thinking that there isn't something out there, and there absolutely can be.
high lakes and high sun create other problems too.
That seems to be the time when we're going to have the cyanobacteria blooms historically.
Adam Soderston with the Clean Lakes Alliance is talking about blue-green algae.
We're trying to really call it cyanobacteria what it is, because if we say bacteria, you're probably less likely to go in it than if you hear the word algae.
It only has one Dane County beach shut down so far.
Protecting our resources and keeping everybody safe has always been a big thing.
So while you may want to rush out to the lakes, maybe slow down a bit once you're on them.
I mean, there can be surprises on any of it. It's water, and it's constantly changing.
It's important to note that slow no wake orders are still in effect on the lakes across Dane County. In fact, the Sheriff's Department issued at least 50 verbal or written warnings over the weekend for people going too fast on the water. On Lake Mendota, I'm Danica Lewis, News 3 Now.
And next at 6, it's looking like a pretty good weekend to get out and do some boating.
Meteorologist Dave Caulfield is forecasting highs in the upper 80s, and he'll have the first alert forecast when News 3 Now at 6 comes right back.
Good evening. I hope you had a really nice Wednesday. It was another pretty typical summer day across southern Wisconsin with temperatures in the middle 80s, plenty of sunshine. Once again, we did see some showers and thunderstorms develop west of Madison. Most of those have dissipated, but we're also watching some showers closer to Green Bay. I think those will die down as we get into the next couple of hours, and some light thunderstorm activity starting to show up a little bit closer to Camp Douglas, where those humidities west of Madison are a little bit higher. So we have weak forcing over us right now, causing some of those thunderstorms to kind of popcorn up. And then once they're out of the microwave, so to speak, they start to die down. And we don't need any more rain in Madison, or at least not really to the extent that we have seen the rain. Already up to 5.5 inches of rain in July. That is well above average for the entire month, and we still have about a week to go. I think our better rain chances in Madison arrive as we get into the start of next week, specifically Sunday and Monday. In Madison, on the Edgewater Skycam right now, looking at partly sunny skies. 84 degrees the high today, so about 5 degrees above normal for this time of year. Our low temperature was actually a couple degrees below where we should have been. So a little bit on the up and down side, but again, this is pretty typical of what we would expect for late July. 82 right now in Madison, closer to where that rain has fallen in Mineral Point. 75 degrees, so a little bit cooler. 79 in Waukesha and 82 in Janesville. Dew points not too bad in spots like Madison, in the upper 50s and mid 50s in Janesville, but we are starting to notice a little bit more of that humidity closer to southwestern Wisconsin. Now, as far as humidity goes, it will be creeping upwards as we head into the next couple of days, and specifically the weekend. And also temperatures will be on the upswing a bit as we get into Friday and Saturday. We're in the upper 80s, closer to 90 on Sunday. We could be feeling like the mid 90s when you combine that heat and humidity on Sunday. So overnight, mostly clear and pleasant. Nowhere near the 90s. We'll be in the lower 60s as skies will clear. And then as we head into tomorrow, mostly sunny, continued warm once again in the mid 80s. And temperatures will slowly but surely be getting slightly warmer, with not too much impeding that sunshine and that warmth from building up. We'll be in the low 60s to start off tomorrow morning. A few clouds possible tomorrow, but really looking at another day of lots of sunshine. On Friday, maybe a few more clouds do visit us, but I think we'll stay dry at this point, with highs in the mid to upper 80s by the time we get to this weekend. Your 7 to 10 day forecast showing the upper 80s for Saturday and Sunday. Could have some showers and thunderstorms late Sunday and on Monday.
The Packers get rid of one of their more productive veterans the day before training camp begins. The story's coming up in sports. Packers shocked just about everyone by releasing All-Pro defensive end Mike Daniels today, the day before the first practice of training camp. A big part of the reason the Packers let Daniels go is money. He was going to make $8.5 million this season. Now, the Packers will save about that in salary cap money. Daniels also missed 8 games the last 2 seasons because of hip and foot injuries. The Packers spent a lot of money on new free agents on defense, too, so they let Mike Daniels go.
Obviously, there's choices, that you have to make. Some are more long-term, choices that you have to make looking out forward. We feel pretty good about the depth we have in our defensive line room right now. And these things are never easy, but, we wanted to make sure we had some flexibility moving into, the years ahead.
As we said, tomorrow is the first practice of Packers training camp. It's also the first with Matt LaFleur as the Packers head coach. Mike McCarthy was the head coach the last 13 seasons, but now LaFleur is in charge, and he says he's ready to go to start bringing the Packers back to the playoffs and beyond. So what's his biggest concern heading into his first Packers practice?
Maybe the unknown. You're going through this the first time, and, you try to prepare for every scenario that's going to come your way. There's just some things that are out of your control, and just from my perspective, it's always control the controllables and do whatever you can to try to be the most prepared as possible.
Today was also the annual Packers shareholders meeting in Lambeau Field. A few thousand fans gathered to hear about the state of the team. Profits were way down last year. There are a lot of reasons for that, including larger than expected payments for an NFL concussion settlement. But the big ticket item, paying Aaron Rodgers and all those free agents.
Obviously the signings, I think most people would say those are good investments in our team. So, but I anticipate that next year our profits will go back to the levels that they have been in the past.
Around the NFL today, former Badger tight end Lance Kendricks has a new home. He signs with the New England Patriots, and the Melvin Gordon holdout has officially begun. The Chargers open camp today. Gordon wasn't there. He says, the team says it's cutting off contract talks with Gordon for not showing up. Gordon faces a fine of $40,000 a day for missing camp. Well, the Brewers tried to get one win out of their series with the Cincinnati Reds that wrapped up at Miller Park today. Boy, you never know when Ryan Braun's going to be in the lineup, and if he is, you never know if he's going to do something. Well, today he did something. 420-foot homer gets the Brewers offense going in the first inning. Last thing the Brewers needed was to have another starting pitcher go down. Yuli Chacin has to leave after grounding out in this at bat in the third inning. Chacin leaves with a strained left oblique, likely headed to the IL. Brewers trailing in the fifth, but Yasmani Grandal gets them the lead with a 2-run single. Final score at Miller Park, Brewers 5, Reds 4 in San Francisco. The Cubs beat the Giants 4-1. So the Brewers still 2 games up on the Cubs atop the Central. Cardinals a game out. Cubs come to Miller Park starting Friday. That's a big one.
That'll be big. And they've played poorly, but they're still right there.
They're hanging.
Everybody else has,
they're right on the edge of buy or sell.
It has not been pretty. Yeah. Final check, Dave.
Weather is a little bit prettier, I think, as we head into the next couple of days. Temperatures will be warming up into the upper 80s. That humidity goes up a little bit this weekend as well.
All right. Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 6.
Have a good night, everybody. See you back here tonight at 10.